What if I said we can condense all 14 lines of this code into 3? Alright, welcome back everyone, and in this video we're actually gonna take a time travel back. That's all sounds weird. But we're gonna go back to that web scraping video that we did. And if you saw that video, you'd recognize this code, and you would remember that we split this into 2 because Etsy, for example, has 2 different results on their pages depending on whatever on the back end, I don't know. But instead of splitting this off into 2 big statements like this, we can actually condense it all down into 3 lines of code. And we can do that with something called RegEx. I've also heard it pronounced as RegEx, but RegEx makes more sense to me considering it stands for regular expressions. Now, a regular expression can be very cryptic looking. It can look like you took a keyboard and smacked it up someone's head, and you just get the results. For example, it could just look, something weird. Like if you're looking at it and you have no idea what it is, you can see something completely strange and weird looking like that, and it would just work. You wouldn't understand it, I'm sure. But using this, we can actually condense all this down into 3 lines by creating our regex, compiling it, and performing a search. Now, all of these symbols do have a specific meaning as to what they mean, what they are specifically looking for. And of course, what we want here is we want to find a price. So obviously, we want something to start with a $sign, followed by however many digits, a period, and then specifically only 2 more digits, which would be our cents. So instead of splitting all of this stuff up, we can go ahead and we can create a new regex. So we can say, just comment that out just to get rid of that error for now. We can say var re, you can name it whatever you want, equals regex dot new. So now we have this new one. Now before we can use it to search our response for this price, we need to compile it with a pattern. Now, if you're using another language, such as Python, for example, you don't need to compile it. The pattern actually put in into the search. So in Python, you would have 3 arguments. You have the search pattern, and then you have the search text you want to go through, followed by a flag. Now, here in GDScript, we don't have that. It's actually split into 2 different things. So we have to do re.compile and put a pattern in. There we go. Followed up by performing a search or a search all. Now, in this case, we're looking for a price, so we don't need to search all. We can just do the individual search. And of course, what we want to search is the response. We already said this. Now, compiling it, our pattern is in the form of a string. Now, this is where things may look a little cryptic. But what we want to do, and this is standard across all languages, is, let me just get that off the screen there. We want, as we mentioned, to start with a $sign. Now, we can't just put in a $sign like this, as this is actually a symbol in regex, meaning whatever's to the left of it is what our pattern has to end with. Whatever we're looking for, it has to end with that. So the way we can tell it that we want it to be a literal $sign and not take it as a representation of the symbol is we can put in this slash. Now, I always mix up my forward slash and backslash. I never remember if it's going from the top or going. So, example, I don't know if it's like moving forward from the top or if it's going back from the bottom. So, that always confused me, but I think that's a backslash. But as you see in GDScript, we can't put 1 because it's an invalid escape sequence. In GDScript, we have to put 2 of them, like so. But if this was Python, C, or Purdue, anything else, we only need to put in 1 of these. So another language would look like that. In GDScript, we use 2 of them. Okay, now it's important we don't put any spaces in here. But after we have a $sign, what is it that we're looking for? We want some digits. Now, we don't know how many digits this is going to be, but we know we want some digits. Now, in other languages, this is just going to be the slash and a D. But of course, this is GDScript, so we have to put 2 of them. And it's not going to take a D as a literal character here. As in RegEx, if we wanted a D being literal, we could just put the D. And that'll work like that for all the alphanumeric characters. So since this is specifically like a command, we put in our //D. So now we got $, a digit. We have to tell it how many digits. Now, there's all kinds of different symbols. For example, this star or asterisk means 0 or more, which means there can be no digits at all. Or there could be a bunch of digits, that's fine. Now, normally when you're looking at a price, there's always at least a 1 digit, right? There's always a 0 before the period. So we're going to use the plus symbol, which means 1 or more. So far, our pattern says we need to have a $sign and 1 or more digits. So at the moment, we're looking at something like this currently as a result. Okay, now we could have 2 digits, 2 zeros there, 1 0. It could say $5,000, $3,300, $2, $0. Doesn't matter as long as it has at least 1 digit and starts with a $sign. Now, after our dollars, we split up our price with a decimal point. And we need that to be literal because, again, a decimal in here, it will be taken as a symbol. So we do the / and a period. And last, we need our cents. Well, we know the cents are going to be 2 more digits. So we do digits. But we don't want to have an unlimited amount. So what we can do is we can actually use curly braces, open and close. And if we type in the number 2, then specifically it has to have 2 digits. Now, if we were to type in 3, it would have 3 digits. If we had 1, it would have to have 1 digit, which means if we had a price, say $39.99, that price would not come back to us because we have 2 digits after the period, after our decimal point, not 1. So we have to put 2 of them there. Now, when we perform a search through our response text, we're going to get a result. And this result is a RegEx match. And in our case, since we're just using the regular search, we should only get 1 match. Now, the problem with what we have here is this match gets returned to us, which means we have to store it. So we can create a variable, and this can be our price. I will set that equal to our re.search and our response. So now our price is holding on to whatever our pattern has matched. So now all we need to do now is just set our text. So we do text edit dot text. Let me just lower this down one. And we set this equal to price, but we can't just set it to price because remember, this is a RegEx match. We need to actually get the string that's contained inside of this object. So all we do is we call the function getString from it. Alright, now if we run this and we take a look, we should get our price responded back to us. Now, for you, if you're doing an American websites and you're in America, this would work for you. But as you can see here, for me, since I'm in Canada, this is working with, my price is a little bit different. So what I have to do specifically on the Etsy website is I need to include CA because that is included in the price name. So for me, and if you're in another country and your prices are showing like this on the website you want to track, then you can do this as well. And we could just put a capital C and a capital A in there. And if we search, we can see this is going to come up just fine. There we go, Canadian, $8.12. Now, if you don't know if this is going to be in here, what you can do is we can surround that with parentheses. So I'll surround my CA with parentheses. And to the right of our close parentheses, I'm going to put a question mark. So this question mark here means it's optional. So it's going to match if CA is there, and it'll match if CA is not there. So in this case, if we take a look at it, we're going to get back our 20 cents that we saw earlier, and that's because the first match is actually without the CA. So in my case, for my situation, this is not an optional thing, and I have to have it in there. So if I have to have it, then there's no point in me surrounding it in parentheses. Again, if you're in America or working with a completely different website, you may not need to have something like a CA or whatever for yourself, for your prices. It just happens that in my case, the CA is part of the price. But of course, if I don't want that, I could always remove that, right? So we can just do something like replace CA with nothing, and now it'll show up just like it would before if this was on an American site or an American result or something. All right, so that's a brief introduction to RegEx, regular expressions. There are a lot of symbols that you can use. If I remember, there'll be a whole list of some of the most common ones that you're going to use here on the screen. And you can feel free to test and play around with it. But that's how we do it. We create a new one, we compile the pattern, and then we perform a search and store that in a variable. So with those 3 simple lines, we have compressed our 14 lines. Close that. The 14 lines that we had here into 3. Now, both of these methods work, as you saw, but RegEx is a little more confusing if you're newer, more advanced, but a very useful technique for you to wrap your head around and learn. Alright, so that'll do it with this video. If you guys have any questions or need help with anything, have an idea for a video, something that you want to see, leave a comment down below, and I'll be sure to take a look at it. Maybe it'll turn up to be next week's video.